嗨，大家好，我是戴淑萱。你们有考虑过搬到英国吗？今天我想分享住在当地你所需要知道的事情。这些事情都来自于我个人以及家人朋友的经验。现在让我们开始吧。The first useful thing that you should know before coming to the UK is that people do actually have high expectations of English here. The fact that many countries around the world have English as one of their languages, people learn English at school, all of these reasons have kind of made British people lazy, I think, with learning other languages. They just kind of assume that everyone speaks English. You'll find this if people go abroad. Often British people will just speak English and expect people to know it. And yes, I accept that that's probably not a great attitude to have. It's a little bit kind of, I guess, self-centered in a way. But just so that you know, as a learner coming to the UK, there will be that kind of expectation that you speak English. Just like a subconscious kind of, oh, we all speak English, we can all understand each other. So that means that as a non-native speaker, you'll probably have to reiterate a couple of times that it's not your first language. Like if you are having communication issues and someone's not understanding you, or you can't hear clearly or something, you could actually say, sorry, I'm still learning English. And the other person should think, oh, sorry, like I completely forgot that you're not at a native level of English. So if you remind people politely, like, sorry, I'm still learning English, they should really take that on board and be a bit more conscious of the fact that they need to speak a bit slower. Some people will be more sensitive to that than others. Like some people will be very good at speaking in a way that you can understand or making sure that you understand, and other people will kind of they will not be on that level. They won't be quite aware of what that means, like how they need to adjust their language and everything. So just to let everyone know that there's kind of that expectation, I guess, or this assumption that everyone speaks English. The next one is to do with the humour. You might have heard about banter, which is the stereotypical British way of making jokes. And banter can essentially sound quite mean. It's about sort of taking the piss out of the other person and throwing sort of insults or sort of making fun out of each other in that way. We can say taking the piss. And so if you're not used to that way of making jokes, you might find it a bit mean. Like, oh my God, someone just said something quite rude to me. But actually, if you find that someone's sort of joking and there'll be a bit of a smile on their face and they'll make eye contact with you if they're trying to take the piss out of you, take that as a compliment because they're seeing your relationship as close enough that they can take the mick and have a bit of back and forth and have a joke with you. And the best thing that you can do is maybe to throw this kind of joke back at them. So then there's a bit of give and take, just to let you know that mostly people are not trying to offend you. That's the last thing anyone wants to do. It's actually a style of humour that shows closeness and shows that you have a good relationship with each other. All right, the next point that I have is that most people don't tolerate racism, homophobia, or prejudiced thinking. So these have become pretty hot topics. And if something is said out loud that is clearly racist, homophobic, or prejudiced in a certain way, most people will not stand for it at all. So obviously I'm not speaking for everyone and the way that they think, like I'm sure prejudice does still exist, but saying these kinds of things out loud is really just not tolerated. So there are obviously sort of anomalies and cases of violence that we see in the news, but in terms of day-to-day living, like if you're in the office, you're speaking to someone who's like a normal person, a rational, nice person, then you'll find that they really won't accept that way of thinking. So I guess that's kind of a big generalization to make, and I just want to qualify that by saying that you'll find all sorts of people here who behave in different ways, say different things, make different jokes, and are more or less tolerant of these kinds of comments. But just in my experience, most people I know are not going to tolerate that. So you might need to be more careful than maybe in your own culture about the things you say about different types of people. The next thing that you might want to know about people in the UK is that many people are quite house proud. So that means that they really value their property and often take good care of it. Definitely not everyone, and you'll find all sorts of different places where people live, but you'll find that there's a bit of an interest in where people live. People might talk about this topic quite a lot. Many people are kind of obsessed with owning their own home. That can be a big topic sometimes. So definitely always be polite about where someone lives. If you go into someone's house for the first time, you can compliment how it looks, say that you really like the artwork they've chosen or something. People will really appreciate if you're nice about where they live because they are quite house proud often. Next is that people in the UK tend to really value their leisure time. People really like to make the distinction usually between work and their own personal life. You might find that they have interesting hobbies, things that they're doing with their free time. They like to travel, they like to do artwork, they have some interesting sport that they do. There's all kinds of different hobbies that people have, and this tends to be something that people really value quite highly, what they do in their leisure time. The next point is kind of related, which is privacy. While people enjoy their free time, they also enjoy their privacy. It really depends on the person, but people might not be so keen to invite loads of people around to their house or like sharing about their personal life. They might be a bit more reticent, a bit more hesitant to do that. You don't want to go straight in for the personal questions about, you know, what are you doing with your life? What relationship status do you have? Those kinds of things would be considered like a breach of privacy. So just take your time to get to know people, and then they might open up with you or they might not. It really just depends on how much the person values their privacy. This also applies to social media a bit more, I feel. I feel like people on the whole in the UK tend to maybe share a little bit less on social media. Last but not least, you might find that the crime rate is kind of not as good as in some other places, particularly Asia. So if you're walking around at night, you might want to be a little bit careful. Yeah, I mean, it really depends on where you're comparing to, but the UK, I wouldn't say, has like the best crime rate. And if you're living in a big city, definitely kind of hold on to your bag. Don't walk around on your own at night in a park. Again, what's your experience with this? I'd really love to know, so let me know in the comments down below. So my experience of this is that most of the time I feel absolutely perfectly safe. Like in the daytime, I would never be worried about my safety. But once it gets towards the night time, especially if it's a Saturday night, there's lots of drunk people around, I might be a bit more wary, watching, you know, check that no one's following me. If you are worried about this kind of thing, then just take a friend with you, get a taxi. Taxis are very safe because they're licensed. Make sure it's a licensed taxi. Let your friends know where you are, or sometimes you can even drop a pin on apps like WhatsApp to let people know where you are. Just trust your gut. If you feel like you're getting weird vibes from someone, you're not sure what they want from you, then just kind of look after yourself and just cut off contact with that person. 好的，这是差不多今天的内容。如果你想提升你的英文绘画能力，并同时了解各种有趣的英国文化，现在就点选以下的链接，立即加入我们的课程吧。